Tuesday. Attention, the headlines tonight. Jack the Ripper sends postcard to hell. Vienna besieged, Turks told to hold back. And man in flames, draft card the cause. Plus, coming up, the Archbishop of Canterbury explains why the new church roof will be made entirely of pink balloons. Those are the headlines. Rock me amok.
The news bang, all the news that's worth hearing, and then some. Day 1888.
Local busybody George Lusk received a rather gruesome gift in the post today. A letter from Jack the Ripper and half a human kidney. Sources say Lusk was disappointed to only receive half the organ.
The letter, penned in serial killer cursive, taunted authorities with details of the Ripper's latest culinary experiment. "Sounds like a right dodgy kebab," remarked one horrified butcher.
The Whitechapel Vigilance Committee, armed with rolling pins and righteous anger, have vowed to hunt down the Ripper and, more importantly, the missing half of that kidney. Waste not, want not, as they say.
Meanwhile, local butchers report a surge in offal sales as morbid Londoners attempt to recreate the Ripper's recipe. Health officials warn this trend could lead to a nasty bout of indigestion and possible cannibalism.
1529.
The Ottoman Empire's attempt to redecorate Vienna has been met with a resounding nein. Suleiman the Magnificent, a man whose penchant for interior design is as notorious as his conquesting, was forced to retreat after a disastrous attempt to impose Ottoman chic upon the Austrian capital.
Eyewitnesses report that the Viennese responded to the Ottomans' attempts to hang Turkish rugs with a hail of lederhosen and sausage projectiles. One local declared, "They'll be replacing our beer with Turkish coffee next, over my dead schnitzel."
The siege took a comical turn when Ottoman forces, attempting to tunnel beneath the city walls, accidentally emerged in a wine cellar. They were discovered 3 days later singing off-key drinking songs and wearing lampshades as fezzes.
In a final act of desperation, Suleiman ordered his troops to catapult kebabs over the city walls, hoping to win over the Viennese with the irresistible aroma of grilled meat. The plan backfired, however, as the locals simply opened their mouths and enjoyed the free lunch.
1965.
One David J. Miller turned an anti-war rally in New York City into an impromptu barbecue today, setting his draft card ablaze with the fury of 1,000 draft-dodging hippies. The flames, visible from space, caused widespread panic.
Eyewitness Mabel Flaps, 73, mistaking the protest for a marshmallow roast, remarked, "It's about time someone brought the heat to this peace rally."
The blaze spread, turning the rally into a bonfire of bureaucracy. The NYPD's bomb squad was called, only to find they had no protocol for extinguishing flaming paperwork. Miller now faces charges of arson, draft evasion, and ruining a perfectly good barbecue.
News bang, a gargantuan chunk of uncensored, unfiltered truths.
With a forecast that's more volatile than a bag of weasels in a firework factory, it's the one and only Shakanaka Giles.
Alright, listen up, weather watchers, listen up, because Mother Nature's got a right cob on. If you're planning on stepping outside tomorrow, you'd better pack a hard hat, a life jacket, and a stiff drink. You'll need all three. Down south, we've got a proper earthshaker brewing, a right Bobby Dazzler of an earthquake, the sort that could make a tectonic plate do the jitterbug. Those buildings will be swaying like drunken sailors, those chimney pots will be doing the high dive, and, if you're lucky, you might just witness the birth of a brand new volcano. And up north, Hurricane Hazel's throwing a right tantrum. We're talking torrential rain, winds that could peel a banana from 100 paces, and a storm surge that could turn Toronto into a giant swimming pool. Batten down the hatches, folks. And if you see a moose wearing a life jacket, give him a wave. And that's all the weather.
(1529).
1529, and those Ottoman chaps are trying to turn Vienna into a kebab shop. Suleiman the Magnificent, a bloke with a name bigger than his ambitions, is throwing everything but the Turkish delight at those city walls. But the Viennese, bless their lederhosen-clad hearts, are having none of it. We go live now to our man on the battlements, Brian Bastable.
Martin, Vienna's a right sausage fest. Those Ottoman lads are swarming around like wasps at a beer garden, but the Viennese are giving them a right royal roasting. Nicholas Graf Sam, the city's top dog, is strutting around like a peacock in a suit of armor, his mustache bristling with enough defiance to knock a kebab skewer clean out of your hand. The streets are awash with more blood and guts than a butcher's shop on a Saturday morning, and the air is thick with the smell of gunpowder, sauerkraut, and shattered dreams of a Turkish delight empire. I just saw a bloke use a cannonball as a bowling ball, Martin. Resourceful, these Viennese. Suleiman's looking a bit less magnificent and a bit more mildly miffed right now, Martin. His grand plan's gone about as well as a vegetarian kebab, and he's probably sulking in his tent, drowning his sorrows in Turkish coffee and regret. This is Brian Bastable Newsbang, signing off from a city that's as stubborn as an Austrian mule and twice as lively. Back to you, Martin, before I get recruited for the Viennese waltz.
Day 1888.
And now, a chilling dispatch from the annals of criminal history. On this day in 1888, the Whitechapel Vigilance Committee received a most unsavory parcel. George Lusk, the committee's chairman, found himself the unwitting recipient of half a human kidney, courtesy of the notorious Jack the Ripper. This grisly gift, accompanied by a letter from hell, sent shockwaves through London's East End. For more on this stomach-churning tale of Victorian villainy, we turn to our crime correspondent, Ken Schitt.
Good evening, you degenerate bastards. Tonight we're diving into the cesspit of human depravity that was 1888 London. Picture this. George Lusk, chairman of the Whitechapel Vigilance Committee, opens his mail to find a letter that'd make your grandmother's knickers curl. This ain't no love note, folks. It's a goddamn taunt from the most infamous cockroach to ever crawl the streets of London, Jack the fucking Ripper. And because this sick son of a bitch thinks he's clever, he's included a little gift. Half a human kidney, preserved like grandma's pickles. Now, I've seen some shit in my time, but this takes the bloody cake. This from hell letter, as it's now known, is a middle finger to every decent person in Whitechapel. It's the Ripper saying, "Come and get me, you impotent bastards." But here's the kicker. While Lusk and his vigilante boys are running around like headless chickens, Jack's out there, probably laughing his arse off. This letter isn't just evidence, it's a slap in the face to law and order. So, what do we learn from this fetid slice of history? That evil exists, that it mocks us, and that sometimes it wins. But remember this, you miserable lot. For every Jack the Ripper, there's a George Lusk trying to make things right. It ain't pretty, it ain't fair, but it's the world we live in. This is Ken Schitt, reminding you that hell isn't just a place. Sometimes it comes right through your letterbox. Good fucking night.
Oh, 1979.
And now a flashback to this day in 1979 when El Salvador erupted into chaos as a military junta seized power, toppling the government faster than you can say, banana republic. This coup d'etat, ostensibly to prevent a leftist revolution, instead ignited a powder keg of civil unrest that would smoulder for over a decade. The junta's promises of reform quickly evaporated, replaced by a crackdown that would make even the most hardened dictator blush. The ensuing civil war claimed over 75,000 lives and displaced countless more. turning the tiny Central American nation into a Cold War chessboard. For more on this story, we go to our political correspondent, Hardiman Pesto.
Martin, I'm here in San Salvador, where the mood is tense but jubilant following the overthrow of President Carlos Humberto Romero. The streets are filled with a mix of celebration and uncertainty.
Pesto, can you give us any details on how this coup unfolded?
Well, Martin, it all happened very quickly. 1 minute Romero was sipping his morning coffee. The next he was on a plane to Guatemala. I've been told it was a bloodless coup, though I did see a man stub his toe quite badly on a tank.
A bloodless coup? Are you certain about that, Pesto?
Absolutely, Martin. Well, mostly certain. There might have been a small paper cut when they were signing the transfer of power documents.
Pesto, we have reports of gunfire and explosions in the capital. How do you explain that?
Oh, those aren't explosions, Martin. That's just the sound of freedom popping like kernels in the microwave of democracy.
Right? And who exactly is in charge now?
Well, that's the beauty of it, Martin. Nobody knows. It's like a game of musical chairs, except with guns and political manifestos.
Pesto, this is serious. We need facts. Have you spoken to any of the coup leaders?
I have indeed, Martin. I've got with me here General Ernesto El Bigote Sanchez. General, would you like to say a few words?
Gracias, senor. We have liberated El Salvador from the corrupt regime and will bring prosperity to all.
Pesto, that man is clearly not a general. He's wearing a sombrero and a fake mustache.
Well, Martin, revolutions often come in disguise. And I'll have you know that El Bigote means the mustache in Spanish, so it checks out.
It most certainly does not check out. Pesto, do you have any actual information about the new government?
Of course, Martin. They've announced their first act will be to rename the country El Salvador to reflect their heroic deeds.
That's not true, is it?
Well, no, but it would be quite catchy, wouldn't it?
Pesto, thank you for that utterly useless report. We'll check back with you when you found some actual news to report.
News bang, riding the crest of credibility into the high country of truth.
And now, a flashback to 1965, where the flames of protest were burning brighter than a draft card in a fireplace. In New York City, David J. Miller, a Catholic pacifist, made a fiery statement against the Vietnam War by publicly incinerating his draft card. This act of defiance ignited a firestorm of controversy and landed Miller in hot water with the authorities. Was this a courageous act of conscience or a reckless act of rebellion? For more on this incendiary incident, we go to our American correspondent, Melody Wintergreen.
New York City, 1965. Melody Wintergreen here, where the air is thick with tension, tear gas, and the smell of burning cardboard. It's a day that will go down in history, a day when one man's act of defiance ignited a firestorm of protest. David J. Miller, a young Catholic pacifist, has just committed the unthinkable. He's burned his draft card right here in the heart of Times Square. The crowd, a mix of anti-war activists and bewildered onlookers, is buzzing with excitement, fear, and a dash of morbid curiosity. Miller, with the fervor of a fire and brimstone preacher, declares, "I refuse to be a part of this immoral war." His words echo through the concrete canyons, a clarion call for peace in a world consumed by conflict. The flames from his burning draft card dance in the autumn breeze, a symbol of resistance against the military machine. But the authorities are not amused. The FBI is on the scene, and Miller's days of freedom are numbered. He's about to become a symbol, a martyr for the anti-war movement. His act of defiance will spark a nationwide debate about freedom of speech, the morality of war, and the power of a single match to ignite a revolution. The burning of a draft card, a simple act with explosive consequences. This is Melody Wintergreen for Newsbang, from the front lines of dissent, where the flames of protest are burning bright and the fight for peace is heating up.
1932.
And on this day in 1932, a young man named J.R.D. Tata, with a head full of dreams and a heart full of aviation fuel, took to the skies above India. He wasn't just launching an airline, he was launching an era. Tata Airlines, the precursor to Air India, was born. To guide us through the turbulent financial skies of this pioneering venture, we turn to our business correspondent, Perkins Stornoway.
1932, India, a young J.R.D. Tata, visionary, entrepreneur, pilot, dogger, moderate, becoming favourable, Tata Airlines, a dream taking flight, Bombay, Karachi, Ahmedabad, new routes, new horizons, war surplus aircraft, Douglas DC-3s, a fleet assembled, Shannon southwesterly, Force 4 occasionally bumpy, mail contracts, government support, the winds of change are blowing, passengers flocking, demand soaring. Expansion, Bellary, Madras, the network grows, Lundy fair, occasionally a bit choppy, international ambitions, North America beckons, 1946, a transformation, Tata Airlines becomes Air India, the national carrier, a proud moment. But challenges lie ahead. German bite, moderate, becoming occasionally rough. Competition, regulation, the vagaries of the market. Tata, a steady hand on the controls, navigating the turbulent skies of commerce. And that's the business.
Inner news bang, sifting through the debris of deception for shards of truth.
And finally, a look at tomorrow's papers. The Times splashes with Bonaparte bangers. The Guardian leads with Roman Roundup, 2,000 on cracking Polish trip. The Telegraph, with a map, yells, Bengal bifurcated. The Mail goes with Jellied eel scandal, Bobby on the blob. And the Express leads with Russian mutt found in Leicester. Just time to thank our contributors. Till tomorrow, Newsbang says, good night.
Tune in next time for more artificially intelligent hilarity. Newsbang is a comedy show, written and recorded by AI. All voices impersonated. Nothing here is real. Good night.